I'm doing homework. I'm sitting on my bed doing homework. And then this sound comes on the television, and I just freeze in my tracks. And I look up, and this guy sitting there with a huge afro, and he's playing. And for the first time in my life, what I have been hearing as a teenager, 13, 14, 15 years old, I heard somebody else doing it, and it like did this to me.
Ladies and gentlemen, I am so blessed, so happy that you finally get to hear from someone that I have been following and actually had the privilege of working with and around for the past few years. But now he gets to share his wisdom, his knowledge of everything when it comes to music, when it comes to music business, when it comes to this industry, and really what he's all about. So the amazing West Byrd, welcome to the God and Gig Show. How are you, my friend?
I'm good, brother. Thanks for having me, man. I'm excited to be here.
I'm excited because like we were just talking about, normally I'm emailing you, you're emailing me about something I forgot to send or some Dropbox of a million different charts of all the different things that you worked on and all the different bands you worked on. We do share a connection where we both got to work with the incomparable Mike Phillips. So that's how I got to see your name. And then your name started popping up everywhere else. It was like, okay, I see this email and then I'm like, wait. And so West Byrd became like synonymous with me seeing musicians all over the place and just you being a part of the network. So a lot of people are meeting you for the first time though. So everybody hates this part, but I got to do it. It's this podcast, lingo. Everybody wants to do their 30-second elevator pitch just to tell everybody, even though they read the bio, just to tell them like who you are, what you do, just a couple of things that people want to know about you or that you want people to know about you the first time they meet you. So just share a little bit of that, just a little bit, and then we'll get into some more deep questions.
Well, like I said, my name is West Byrd. I'm originally from Selma, Alabama. Grew up, born and raised there. I studied music in college at UAB. Started classical. Let me go back. Started classical. Started playing in church at a very young age, playing piano, and studied in college. And been living now in Atlanta for about 15 years. A lot of people know me throughout the years for working with a lot of different artists as musical director, which is how, as you mentioned, the network of musicians. I know musicians pretty much all over the world now because of that. Yeah, man, I strive to help everybody that comes along my path, share my wisdom, share my knowledge, and just help everybody, man, try to uplift and be the best person of themselves. So that's a little bit about me. I mean, I'm sure we're going to get into more as we dive into this interview. So.
Exactly, man. And the first thing I want to say is this may sound like a very strange way to put this, but I feel like I'm talking to my better looking clone because exactly. Definitely more hair. Definitely got, I got more salt and pepper here. But the reason I say that is because when I started reading your bio and I saw, number one, you mentioned Selma, Alabama. Me being raised not in Selma, not in Alabama, but I call it South Alabama in Pensacola, Florida. So I was raised in Pensacola, Florida. So I'm right next door to you in Mobile over there, and then right up the road a little bit. So I'm very familiar with that area. And then when you mentioned being starting, I think you started classical. I think I read that as well. So that was, and again, like, I know this life.
Yeah, absolutely.
and then jumping into the jazz with, you mentioned in your bio, Herbie and Kirk and Keith. These are like my patron saints as well. So I don't know your story, but I feel like I know your story.
Absolutely.
So tell me at least a little bit about that beginning, because a lot of the musicians that are in our circle, of course, we reach all kind of creators, but most of us have like that origin story, that first song, that first, inspiration where it was like, I really want to do this for real, not just play at school, not just be in the band, but I want to do this. So do you have a specific song, musical experience, mentor, someone that turned you from just kind of doing this to wanting to do this for real?
So that kind of happened for me later on. When I say later, I mean like late teens.
Really?
That happened, yeah. I had an uncle who was a DJ, my mom's brother, and he took me to a concert, a Fred Hammond concert actually, when I was in college. I may have been a freshman or maybe a sophomore. I think I was a sophomore at this time. But I actually had stopped playing. And he took me to this concert, and it was the first time I saw production, like music, in terms of a show production type of deal, where it's smoke coming out the floor, and the sound is immaculate, and everybody just looks bigger than life. And that was really the first time for real when I said, "Okay, I'm doing this." So much so that I went back to school, and I was a biology major, pre med.
Oh,
Um,
okay. Wait. Hold up. I'm gonna pause you there. This is another theme in my life that you see. I hate this part when I feel like, why, Lord, why are you teasing me? One of the reasons why I got so annoyed with trying to get further ahead in my musical career, or as far as being a classical pianist, was because I was being shamed by all the other people in my studio, the students in my studio, because they were all double major music and pre-med. And then here you come.
so I wasn't a double major. So to continue, so I was a biology major, but after this concert, I went back to my advisor the very next day and told her I'm switching my major and
Wow.
music. And she was confused because at that point I had kind of like just buried music completely. Nobody knew I played in this new atmosphere, in this new environment, um, the whole nine. And so I actually took up business as a major and music as a minor. And so that's kind of was my first real. I'm gonna do this for real as a living. Like no plan B, whatever it takes. This is it. After I saw that Fred Hammond concert in person, I was just mesmerized. I was shocked. And before then, I had moments where I liked the idea of it, but because of growing up in Selma, I didn't see any other outlets. You understand what I'm saying? This was pre-internet. You got to think all this stuff too. Only thing we had was really VHS tapes. You know what I mean? I think everybody had those. In terms of seeing video of people doing what we do or aspiring, to do. And so growing up in Selma, the only thing I saw was guys playing at church and at home, and going home, church, and then going home, and most of those guys were struggling, you know, and so kind of like listening to advice from my parents, and not really to shun me away from it, but that's all that they knew. It wasn't like somebody just really out there succeeding and doing more stuff. This is the only thing they saw when it came to music as far as a career goes, you know. And then too, another thing, and I kind of always tell this story. Starting out classical in a place like Selma, I started reading first. Nobody else in my circle read music, you know. So I was like an outcast. You know what I mean? It's like didn't like my sound because everybody else sounded like this one thing, And once again, this was pre-internet, no YouTube, none of that kind of stuff. So I heard everybody else sounding like this. I sounded like this, and so I felt like the ugly duckling. You know what I mean? When it came to my playing, and so I shunned away from it. You know what I mean? For a long time, and so that's the reason why I say it didn't really happen to me till later on. You know what I mean? All through, I never played in any of the choirs, like for school and any of that kind of stuff. I because I didn't sound like what they wanted me to produce. You know what I mean? And so, and it killed my confidence in a lot of ways. You know what I mean? Like, I always kind of tell this story, like in overcoming all this kind of stuff later on in life. But I kind of went the long route. But to answer your question, yeah, that didn't happen till later. And all those years prior, I struggled, man, really, really bad with the idea that my music sounded good and was good enough. You know.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So, like I said, see, I told you that that's why I was trying not to go to how many similarities, but that speaks to me because, again, same deal. In a church where I was in a Lutheran church of all things, man. So we're doing we're doing the 4-part harmony, exact same thing you just described. And I want to talk about the outcast feeling that you were feeling because if you're not careful, that could follow you as far as the comparison, even when you got into the jazz, the R&B, So tell me a little bit about your evolution of that. Like once you said, hey, I'm doing this, how did you get now to, not feel like an outcast? Or was that still something that you had to fight with as you became like more proficient in this area?
I wouldn't say I fight it to this day, but it's only been a couple of years. And I've been doing this thing professionally now almost 20. If you can, I just had a birthday a couple of days ago. I'm 39 now. I started really kind of like going on the road, doing different stuff professionally with different people and traveling when I was like 19, 20. And for a long time, I still struggled because I was still searching for my sound. You know, I kind of knew what I wanted to hear and the things that I was hearing in my head and wanted to produce, but I couldn't get it from here and here. I couldn't produce it. And so yeah, I struggled for a long, long time with that, man. And I never wanted to hear myself back on any videos or any type of recordings or anything like that. It made me cringe, and that was because of the comparison thing. Once again, I heard other people who sounded a certain way, and it's like, okay, I don't sound like that, and I didn't come to love my own sound, man, until maybe 5, 6 years ago, maybe. So that's a long time to struggle with that, especially when you're doing it professionally. You know what I mean? That's a long time to struggle with it and not be able to find some type of daylight. You know what I mean? At the end of that tunnel. So, the outcast feeling, man. You mentioned that earlier. It stemmed from a lot of different things. It stemmed from being passed up, like for engagements and stuff like that. People that you work with all the time. When it was time to do the big thing, oh, we got to call somebody else in, because you ain't ready for that. You ain't. And so, as a preteen and teenager, like that just buries you more in this already mental battle that you're having with yourself that they may not even know about. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and I see so many other people, man, who deal with it too, and it's a lot of creatives. It's not just musicians. It's people that do anything that requires you to love what you're able to produce as a creative. You know what I mean, or creator. Yeah. You can be you can be a poet. You can be whatever the case may be. In order for you to excel and find your own voice and your own everything, you gotta first love yourself, detached from your gift.
Yeah. Oh no, I know all too well. Here's the thing I was going to mention, because you're talking so deeply about the things that don't just apply to the music industry, right? You just said it. It's not just about musicians. And one thing I always remember in terms of the difference between amateur and professional is, and here's the thing you just said about loving what you do. Sometimes us professionals end up not loving it because it's a job now. Because now you're constantly trying to, like you said, to measure up, to be the standard. Some of my lowest moments have been at the highest points of professionalism, made me feel the lowest because I was in that comparison. But the thing that amateur actually means, ama, from the Latin, means to love. So amateur literally just means to love the art. So maybe some of us professionals need to act more like amateurs and just love it.
That was the official definition of amateur, to love.
Yeah. Someone that actually loves to do it and doesn't mind, obviously, looking kind of bad, because amateurs are literally amateurs. But that phrase got kind of twisted because we thought an amateur was something bad.
Right.
Meanwhile, an amateur is actually someone that's doing it for the love and maybe doesn't get the money and the prestige, but is willing to do it anyway.
Appreciate that, man. You just taught me something that I didn't realize.
We're vibing, man. That's what you took me here. I didn't know we were going to be talking about music or life, but I can see we're on the same wavelength in this too, because this is where I live. The space of, what does this actually mean? Like, yes, you want to play out and do great things and release your album, but at the end of the day, like, you still got to sleep in this, in this body, in this head, and deal with that. So that's where we live more at in terms of God and gigs, really, where my heart has been in terms of what we share. But you're doing such a good job, so I don't want to interrupt you, and I want to ask you, even in terms of that, because there's a place where you have to kind of fight with it, right? The comparison, the outcast. But then there's the place where you just said we started to love it. And I want to ask, like, what was there a catalyst for that? Was there a moment? Was there a musician that spoke into you? Was there where you were playing something or you heard something? You're like, wait a minute, like, why am I thinking like this? Like, was there something that kind of helped you break out of it? Because there's someone listening who's resonating with all of this, but they're looking for the light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah. So during all this time as a teenager too, I was writing music. And then I would write it, and then I would shelve it. I would write it, and then I would come with all this stuff, and I would shelve it because once again, it's not good enough. You know what I mean? And once again, like I said, I started classical. I grew up in a gospel kind of arena, but in my head, I was hearing something totally different from both of them, right?
Okay.
So I'm in college, maybe my junior year now. I'm doing homework. I'm sitting on my bed doing homework. And it used to be a channel called BET Jazz during that time.
I remember.
Yeah. So I'm sitting there doing homework with my head down, and it's just on. So the music is coming on, and then this sound comes on the television, and I just freeze in my tracks. And I look up, and there's this guy sitting there with a huge afro, and he's playing. And for the first time in my life, what I had been hearing as a teenager, 13, 14, 15 years old, I heard somebody else doing it, and it like did this to me. So I'm sitting there, dropped the homework, I'm sitting there just mesmerized. I didn't take my eyes off the screen because I knew at the end of the video, they was going to show who it was. It was Herbie Hancock. It was Herbie Hancock. This was 9 or 10 o'clock at night, maybe even a little bit later. I don't remember exactly what time. As soon as the sun came up and they opened the doors to the record store, remember record stores?
I remember records. Oh, yeah, man.
I went and I found everything I could by Herbie Hancock. And that started my journey to the impression of what I wanted to sound like now. And so that started the journey, which was starting all the way over again for about a good 6 or 7 years. I shed it. That's my first true introduction to jazz as well. Like, okay, for real. You know what I mean? So, like everybody know me now from kind of doing the jazz thing, but that was the introduction. So from there, I just dived in, man. Everything I can get my hands on, and obviously by exploring people like Herbie, I found out about other people like Chick because he was doing collaborations and stuff like that. And so it just started this rabbit hole, man, of just searching different sounds and finding out about there's a whole another genre of music that's so vast that I had no idea existed because my parents didn't listen to that stuff. You know what I mean?
Right.
They listened to the R&B like Earth, Wind and Fire, Commodores, Isley Brothers. My dad listened to a lot of that stuff. So I had some knowledge of that. But this is the crazy thing about that. When I tell people this, they look kind of crazy. I didn't realize from hearing that stuff on the radio, because I never saw it, that those were actually musicians playing in the studio. It didn't register to me. As crazy as that sounds.
No. Actually, okay. It kind of hit me weird when you first said it. But when I put it together with this doesn't feel like it's real. It's like you said, like the internet's different now. Like we see everything right away. Back then there was like larger than life. It was like this. Yes. So I get what you're saying.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, like I said, I had some exposure to the older R&B stuff. But once I saw the Herbie thing, man, it just, like I said, it took me on a roller coaster ride. Because like I said, for the first time, music and me, what I heard in my head, it did this. It like, oh my God, that's it. That's what I hear. I may not be able to play that, but that's what I'm hearing. That thing that he's doing, all these different type of instruments that he's playing, I hear that, but I don't know how to produce it. So you keep in mind, I only play by notes because classical. I'm still reading pretty much everything. Even the gospel stuff that I learned as a teenager, man, I had to try to find the sheet music because I didn't develop my ear till I was like 19 years old.
Oh wow!
Yeah,
but that's again something that I think I used to think that I missed out because all the cats that could learn by ear had something over me. Meanwhile, now I'm sure you can say this 40 years later, the fact that you
Oh,
can read and hear.
man, I'm so, it's a blessing, dude. I wouldn't, of all the stuff I've done, I wouldn't have been able to do half of it if I didn't have the skill to be able to read. Um, when I do really high profile gigs or when I'm doing festivals now and I got to play for 8, 9 artists on one, you can't remember 80 songs. It's impossible. You know what I'm saying? And you can make a try, but the amount of time you got to put in to try to remember 80 songs, the money is not even worth it. The whole thing, and you're so
That's a
stressed
good
out,
point.
because, and this is the thing, on song 43, that bridge is 1 bar short, or they got an extra tag on this thing. You can't remember everything. Song 77 is you know what I'm saying? So to process all that, reading gave me an advantage later on that I thank my parents all the time. You know what I mean, for that. So my mom is a pianist as well.
Wait,
Yeah.
wait, no, I keep trying not to say anything, but
Serious?
dude, come on.
Come on.
Yes.
So that was the introduction for me. My mom wanted me to play because she played. I never asked to play. It was just something that they just put me in. It's like, hey, you're gonna do this, and I hated it. For a long time. That's such a harsh word, but really, I didn't. I was a sports guy. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Yeah, I wanted to play sports. I played baseball and basketball. I wasn't touching the football field. But I was a sports guy, man. So I really wasn't into the music thing until later on. You know what I mean? So yeah, man. It's been a weird adventure to get to a point like where I am now. But everything I just named, all those different situations and stuff, they carved a certain thing within me. Whether it was a lack of confidence to now, at least I have a compass of where I want to go. It's up to me how I figure out how to get there. But now I have, like Herbie Hancock gave me a compass. And I promise you, since that very night that I heard it, I have not stopped pursuit of that sound. And because, like I said, starting over, when I say I only really started liking my sound a couple of years ago, it's because I've been on the pursuit of that sound. Not Herbie's sound, my sound, with Herbie's influence or all these other guys' influence. You know what I mean? So, and that just came, like I said, it took me about 13, 14 years of pursuit for me to be like, okay, this is good. This is good enough for me to have a great foundation and go. Once again, I've been on the road for 20 years. That's the mind-blowing part as I hear myself talking about it. Because you can play and you can get through and you can blah, blah, and everybody else thinks it's great, but your capacity, one, and you know what you're searching for. You know what I mean? So it's like the whole deal. A buddy of mine, we always talk about being humble, like what we think humble is. Like downing yourself, we think it's humbleness, but it's not. But at the same time, you do know that there's a goal and a thing that you're trying to accomplish. And it's not when you get there, that's it. When you get there, the goalposts move somewhere else, and now you start on another. You understand what I'm saying? That's always
absolutely.
So it happens to me every 3-4 years, maybe. I set out to do something, I accomplish it to a certain degree, and the goalpost moves, and then you just continue to grow and you continue to elevate in that pursuit of whatever it is that you're trying to do. So
I'm loving the way you're putting this, and it puts so much context now to what I was about to ask about next, which is you just talked about your sound. And again, I'm trying not to do the whole like comparing to me, everything you're saying is like, I know that feeling. So now you're talking about releasing your album.
How about that?
Huh?
Let's just embrace it from here on out. We're good.
Let's embrace it. Exactly. No more fighting it. No more fighting it. Yes. This is brothers from another mother. That's how we talk about it. So now you talk about your own sound. And as we're recording, you just released your own project. So again, something that I have said to myself, one of the things that accompanist, and I call myself an accompanist, you're an accompanist, you're someone that literally makes other people sound good for a living, right? To flip the switch now to not have to make somebody else's sound happen, but now to do something for yourself. Talk a little bit about the mind shift that was to do your album, to say, no, this is my record. I don't have to answer to anybody else. Was that difficult? Was it easy because now you get the chance to do your own sound? What was that like to now do your own project versus helping other people do theirs?
The first thing is acceptance. This is what I'm gonna do. No turning back. Get it done. The issue, I'm gonna call it that. It's not really the word I want to use, but the issue with that for me is that I delayed it a lot longer than I probably could. Should have. Anyway, I told my wife the other day I probably should have did this 18 years ago. Realistically,
even though you were still searching for your sound.
Yeah, because that's part of the search too. Yeah. The part of the search is jumping over these hurdles that you feel like are so high, because once you jump over them and you realize that you can jump over them, why did I could have did this. It wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. That kind of self-talk. You understand what I'm saying?
Right. Right.
But specifically with this record is called West Byrd Solo. So I went into the studio with nothing. No drums, no bass, no guitar, no sax, no vocals. It's just me. And I wanted to do that specifically for this first one. I used to work to prove to myself, but I already knew, once again, what I was capable of doing. It's just going and doing it, and then being confident enough to share it with the world, and don't worry about critics. Don't worry about, once again, all these other people who you feel like sound a certain way. Okay, I accept and I embrace my sound. The good part of me delaying, I'd say, is more experience. I have so much experience, man, just from being put in so many musical situations, with some of everybody having to produce at the last minute, for television, having to do for records, having to put together live shows. The amount of experience you get from just kind of, like you said, being on that beaten path of a job, if you will. If you're paying attention and taking notes and really, really trying to grow, there's no one can just tell you all this stuff and it be better than you actually experiencing it yourself. You understand what I'm saying? Like, you can get all the advice in the world about how to do stuff, how to build a house. Okay, you need this, you need all this, but until you actually start putting hammer to nail and see the process, and that first house, it may be looking like this,
You'll fall it over.
If you do it enough, you're going to get a great house. You understand? And that's how I look at my experience throughout all these years, man. And so, once again, going into the studio, I wanted to go in with nothing but me. And playing solo it's extreme, because the amount of focus that it takes, especially when you're playing on a certain level. Once again, we're gonna make that distinguishment from what we perceive as amateur to professional. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, to distinguish it the way we usually perceive it. When you're playing on a certain level, it is extreme, man. And it took amount of focus to be able to do it and write songs and do arrangements to a point where I felt satisfied with them to go in. But the execution, the day of, it took preparation to get myself to a place where I was able to do it mentally. Because I went in, I recorded 9 songs. I did 18 takes. Everything was one take. I didn't want to go back and punch it.
Okay, I was gonna say, like, in solo piano, that's not the kind of stuff you're not overdubbing anything. It's all you.
What you play is what you play. And I also recorded video because
that's what I got a chance to see. I was checking out. I was gonna go ahead. I didn't want to give up my favorite already because I didn't listen to all of it, but I already put a pin on Geneva.
Oh man,
Um,
what if as a musician, Geneva is
yes, that's why, because I appreciate it.
it's one of those, man. It's not a piece of cake. You know, I've been loving that song for years, and I've never even dreamed of doing it solo. Um, and I sat down when I was making this list out, man, and I just said, you know what, I'm gonna tackle it. I'm gonna tackle it because I love it so much. You know what I mean? It's a lot of changes. It's a lot of ins and outs. You know, it's a beast of a song, as we say, um, in today's time, man. But it was a fun project. It was a challenging project. But I'm so happy I did it, and I'm so happy I released my first one in that manner. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's something, like I said, I titled it Volume One because now that I've done it, now that I've jumped that hurdle, I'm gonna go back and do it as many times as I can at this point. You know what I mean? I can't say
Oh yeah. Well, you could.
a year, but I'm gonna go. There will be a volume 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, however long I'm able to play and produce it. I'm gonna go back to the well and see growth because what I realize now is it's just documentation. You know,
Yeah.
that's the
It's,
only thing we're doing. I'm mature, man. I go back and I listen to like the Herbies, the Oscar Petersons, and other people who play piano. When they were 21, they were pretty good. When they were 41, they were even better. When they were 61, they were even better. So you saw progression. You only saw progression because they documented the journey.
wow.
Yeah,
Okay. That hits home. Okay. Wow. Okay. So again, we're just doing the parallels here. We're embracing it. I did my first EP in 2015 with my little trio band. We did one gig, and the international gig. We got to play the International Jazz Festival in Haiti, which was really special. But that was it. We did that. We did the EP. We did that little hit, and then the band kind of like just disappeared. And I basically hid that EP because of what you just said. Building your first house, it looked like a mess to me, and I did, and I did not want to go back on that journey. And you just said it. I've said this, and you literally echoed again. I don't have to even question it because you literally are speaking my language. If Herbie, Oscar, all these cats don't document it, we can't follow their path. So I felt a conviction, West, that I was not documenting, so that no one can follow my path because I'm too scared to document. So you just helped me because that's literally why I'm trying to get myself into the same thing. Pull out those college charts that I've written and sent 10 years ago, and like, man, like this was actually not that bad. It was back on a more pure place when I was just like enjoying the music and just put it out there. So someone's hearing again. I'm thinking the person that's listening, hearing literally just like us, right? He's hearing himself. She's hearing herself. And it's like, yeah, you got to document it because you're helping someone else and yourself to actually go down the journey. That's so good.
absolutely, absolutely. And that only came with maturity from me, man. To look at it from that perspective. Um, I had a session today before we did this podcast, and I'm working on so the last 5 weeks. So I recorded this solo record back in March, um, and just waiting on post production to be done with video and audio and just syncing all of it together. But in the meantime, for the last 5 weeks, I've been working on Christmas music. So I've been in Christmas in July, like literally for real, for the last 5, 6 weeks. And so I'm kind of on to the next. But my session today was we wrote an original Christmas tune, which you don't hear a lot of. You hear some, but you don't hear a lot. And I told the guy who was in the session with me today, I was like, it's a stack of hard drives on my studio desk right over there. And I said, man, I probably got 200 songs on here, unreleased songs, probably 200. You know that because of what everything we've been talking about for the last 30 minutes or so, not having the confidence to put them out. And I'm like, I'm doing myself a disservice. I'm doing my gift a disservice. I'm doing the world a disservice, man, because this record I just released, the amount of feedback and the type of feedback I've gotten back. I talked to a friend of mine this morning who lost his daughter yesterday, to cancer, and he said he put on one of the songs, a song called "Window to the Soul." And he said, "Man, that thing just took me. It took me. You know, I have had other people to reach out, just say, man, this is therapy. This is, you know, um, and I heard I was on Capital Jazz Cruise a couple months ago, and I sat in like a question and answer session with Robert Glasper, and he was just talking about his journey, whatever. And he said one of his turning points or one of his defining moments is when a lady came up to him. He said he's gotten several of these kind of like expressions from people, but she came up to him and said her husband was taking chemo for cancer. And she said the only music he would listen to is your music. And she was talking to Robert, and she said it's the only thing that brings him peace. And so Rob said, once I got over trying to please other musicians and play fast and play all that stuff, that's when everything shifted. And that's when my music gained purpose. And so going back to my record, man, the amount of feedback I've gotten in just a couple of days and how it's touched people in the songs that, you like Geneva. Somebody else may skip right over Geneva.
Yeah. No, that's
but something else does. So it's like I put a plethora of different types of songs on here. I played piano, I played Fender Rhodes, I played melodica, I played other instruments that they had in the studio when I got there that wasn't part of the plan. It's just they had them set up, and I was like, well, they're here. Let's do something with them. You know what I mean? But all of it, just that creative, that space I was in that day to release it and see how it's just vibrating through the earth and it's just touching people different types of ways. That's why you got to do it. You know what I mean? It's not for your own personal gain, honestly. The gain is going to come with it. And that's something, once again, in maturity that I'm learning. Do the work, put it out, whatever's going to come from it, and whoever's going to bless or wherever it's going to reach. It can be a kid in the southeast tip of South America who hears it and just Herbie never knew he was going to influence me back when he was doing.
I was going to say, maybe some kid in Selma right now is going to listen to yours. That same, full circle, man. You never know.
Never know, bro. So it's our responsibility, man, to do it. We have power, bro. A lot of us don't really realize the amount of power that we have in our hands and our heads and our hearts. It don't matter, in our voice. It's power if you use it right, and it's people that's using it for the opposite, as well. You know what I mean? And it vibrates. It all vibrates, and it causes a vibration through a whole generation of people. You know what I mean? And it's very
100%
for those of us who have the gifting to share it. And it don't matter where it goes. You don't worry about that part. You just do it, release it, and it's gonna spread like wildfire.
Man. So you answered without me even asking the question, the one thing I was going to ask about other musicians, and you just said it. I don't think you could change the answer or make it any better, because the question was going to be, what do you wish other musicians knew or would think about or would focus on? But I feel like that answer you just gave is the perfect answer. I don't know. You tell me if there's something else you would share, but I think more people, musicians, creators at all, just need to hear that, what you just shared. Is there anything else you wish that they would focus on or know about the industry versus what we all know they usually focus on?
I think that's it, man. I think for everybody, just in life in general, everybody's living their own life. Nobody's focused on you. Nobody. They're focused on themselves. They're trying to get through their daily, help the next person. That's something we need to focus on. It shouldn't be about me all the time. That's very, very important. And we all get caught up, especially when you're younger, man, and you got your head down and you grinding, as we call it, and it takes a period of that. I do agree in whatever profession and whatever you're doing, it takes a period of grinding. But I feel like we get so lost in that,
Okay.
Yeah, we get lost in it. I'm guilty, I have kids, I got lost. So I don't know if We talked a little bit earlier before we came on. I haven't been on the road a lot, this particular year, and my kids about to turn 13. Every year since they've been born, I've been on the road during the summers when they're out of school.
Oh,
So when they're in school, I mean, I see them a lot. Don't get me wrong, but I'm on the road
right,
so much.
right.
When they're out for summer, specifically, I'm gone because it's festival season. We're gone. We're gone. We're doing this. We're doing that. I just decided this year, no, I'm gonna relax. I'm gonna try something different. I'll be married 2 years in 2 days.
Congrats. So you got birthday and anniversary, both
Right.
right around the time that we're recording. Beautiful, man.
Yeah. But my wife she was like, do it. She's like, I think it's important. You don't know how it's gonna turn out. You've never done it before. You haven't done it since we've been together. So, and it's made me shift my perspective and my priorities a lot. And so once again, I say all that to get back to it shouldn't be about me, me, me all the time. You know what I mean? Like
Gotcha.
I had that period, and I feel like I missed out on a lot, family functions and stuff like that. Sometimes it's part of the job. I mean, if you're a police officer, you're gonna miss some stuff, or whatever your situation may be. An NBA player, they miss stuff all the time, whatever. But it's important to be present when you are present. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
And once again,
No, it does.
stuff I'm learning in my maturity, man, as I get older, and just see a lot of our peers leaving. Well accomplished peers that are leaving, and I realize once they leave, the accomplishments were great, but they really don't mean a lot.
So true. And that's where I'm so glad that we had this conversation, that we didn't go again into just why you need to get the gig, how to get the gig, what's the biggest gig, this big stage. Because again, that's not what moves. I don't think it moves the needle for the everyone that's coming to that level of maturity. I think quicker and quicker and quicker. Maybe social media is helping us in that, because it makes it so obvious that it's so fleeting that maybe people are getting to that level faster. I mean, I'm going to tell you right now, I've already hit 50, so I'm on the other side of that next level that you're about to come to after you get to your 40s, right? So I'm the same way. I'm seeing a season that's like, man, I was chasing all this stuff for all this time, but the thing I'm most proud of is what I couldn't get on the outside, what I couldn't get on the tour. That's what I'm proud of. And so the fact that you got there by 39 is a blessing, man, because now, again, other people could hear your example and they won't have to wait till 39. They could get it even before, and they won't have that season. But I don't want to keep it too long, because this has been an amazing talk. And we're going to do a part 2. You said volume 2 of your solo albums. We're going to do part 2 of this as well. And you got to come into our membership and do all kinds of stuff and have people follow your podcast and everything. But I do want to make sure I get this out, because this is such a beautiful moment, and I want to make sure I focus on this. If you could go back and talk to that kid who had just heard Fred Hammond for the first time, because someone else is in your shoes, right? Someone else is where you were. So if you could talk to that guy who's the exact same place, who just went to, I don't know, touch, or maybe went to Fred Counter, because they're still out there doing their thing. So what would you say to that person, to yourself, if you knew then what you knew now?
Believe in yourself. You're qualified. You're capable. But you got to do the work. Going back to where I grew up at, in Selma, when I would hear someone's from New York, I would always think they had an advantage because they were from New York. If I heard somebody from LA, big city, Hollywood, and this, I always felt like they had an advantage. And this is cliche, but hard work beats talent. Consistency. I have a board right here. I'm gonna read this stuff because it speaks to what we're talking about now. I have a board right here in my, and I just wrote some stuff down. It's been there for a couple of years. The first thing on this board says, "Take care of your health." This all these are reminders to myself every day. All right. First thing on there says, "Take care of your health." The second thing it says, "Discipline and consistency is the key to success." Say that again. Discipline and consistency is the key to success. Whatever your definition of success is, you got to do it a lot, do it consistently. You know what I mean? The third thing says maintain your integrity, because as you elevate, more opportunities are going to come. All of them won't be great in terms of side effects. Let's call it that. It'll be a great opportunity when you're looking at it, because maybe something that you never had before. But there are some side effects that may come along with it, and some roadblocks that could come along with it. So you need to maintain your integrity when these things come. Fourth thing says be patient. That's very important in the process, because it says be patient and enjoy the process, because you don't know if it's going to take a year, you don't know if it's going to take 10 years, you don't know if it's going to take 20 years. So that patience thing, and it goes back to the discipline and the consistency. You just do the work. Don't worry about when, how it's going to happen, because you can be walking through the airport and you can trip somebody up, help them up, and they could be the very person that you needed to advance your career wherever it could go. You can sit beside them in a taxi, or whatever the case may be. You just never know where it's going to happen. If you're doing the work and you're prepared and you're enjoying the process, you don't worry about time. Time is not a factor. The next thing says finish what you start. Oh my goodness. That's one that I think we all probably, include me. I just told you earlier, I probably have 200 songs on my computer, man. Finish what you start. That's super important. This one says trust your dopeness. Goes back to what I said when you originally asked the question. Believe in yourself. Believe in it. If you're putting in the work, believe in it. You know what I mean? The next one says, I got a couple more. These are good. That's why I'm actually.
No, this is good. I want you to come back and do a masterclass on all these eventually, man, because each one of these could be a lesson, a podcast by itself.
The next one says, follow your plan, not your mood. Say that again. Follow your plan, not your mood. So your moods, you're going to wake up one day and not feel like doing it. But if you got a plan in place and you know where you're going, you're going to push past that. You know what I mean? Your body breaking down, or you getting those little creeps of doubts in because you had a bad gig last night. Or whatever. If you got a plan, keep pressing forward. Don't worry about your mood in the moment. That mood will throw you off, man. I see people, it's an engagement on Saturday or something somebody asked them to do. It's Monday. They always saying, I ain't going to feel like doing that. How do you know? You know what I'm saying? Like, you got 5 more days to prepare, whatever it is. So
you already counted yourself out.
Your mood can get you in trouble. Next one says, life's a marathon, not a sprint. Life's a marathon, not a sprint. Means longevity. Keep pressing. Keep pressing. I said earlier, the goalposts will continually move. You got to keep going. My grandfather now is about to be 92. James Earl Jones. Wow. I don't want to date this particular podcast, but past today, he's 93.
No, you're good. Yeah.
He's 93, or was 93. That's a long time to be pressing, bro. That's a long time. You know what I mean? I'm sure at 46, 47 years old, 60s, like he kept going. He kept putting out good work. And what we talked about earlier about sharing, we're mentioning his name now because he shared his gift, right?
Exactly.
You know what I mean? He shared, and I'm sure it was hard for him. If you hear his story, it wasn't a straight line. I'm sure it was a roller coaster, and the very last thing up here, man, says family is number one. That's the very last thing up there, and that's a reminder. Everything I just said, it sits on this board. My kids see it. My wife sees it. Anybody that comes in my studio to do a session, they see it. And people always take pictures of it. And I was like, it's just principles, man, that I just sat one day and it's just like, what do I need to remind myself about? You know what I mean? So every day I come in here, I see it, And I think those are great things to understand, or life principles to understand along your journey. You're gonna meet a lot of people and stuff like that, but don't get lost and not realize that family is number one at the end of the day. You know, yeah, all those friends that we talked about earlier, our peers, who had all these great accomplishments, are not here anymore. You know what they left? Family. A lot of them left kids. Who no longer have a mother or father. And so
which takes you back to the number one. It takes you back to the first one that you talked about. Yeah, so it's a full exactly like they. Man, I'm so glad you did this, man, because this is where, again, someone was blessed, someone was helped. You might have saved a life right there, because someone's going to hear this and say, well, if he's there and this is what he's focused on, and yet he's accomplished all this stuff, maybe I should be focusing on that stuff too. And like the Bible says, all these things will be added, right? So that is just an amazing testament to who you are as a man first, and then as a musician second, and a creative. So thank you so much for being on the show, brother. We got to do this again. And those just for the people who do the writing down, they can easily click this link. Just give them a quick note of where they can find you online, socials, all that kind of stuff.
So first and foremost, my website, westbyrd.com. That's WESTBYRD.com. I'm all over social media, man. When I'm on there, I have Instagram,
you have time,
and Facebook at West Byrd. So those are the places you can find me. But my website has anything you need to be able to contact me for engagements. My album is on there if you want to purchase and download all that good stuff, man. It also has a lot of information about what I do and the things I'm involved in. So.
Perfect. Well, I'm going to make sure they click that link and make sure that they are not just following your keys on the keyboard, but your keys to life that you just shared. Because, brother, this was amazing. We're having more conversations about this hopefully very soon. But God bless you, man. This has been amazing. Thank you for being on the God and Gig Show.
Thanks so much, Alan. I really appreciate you having me, man. I hope to do it again soon. Anything you need, anything you need, let me know. It's already done. I promise you that.
Thank you,
Last
brother.
thing to say, I already knew we were like brothers because Mike told me so.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
That's the highest compliment I could possibly get, man.
He told me.
We got to talk more about, geez, that just opened a whole other thing. Man, that means so much to me. All right, well, God bless you, man. We're going to close this interview, but not this conversation.
Absolutely, brother. Thanks, man.
My friend, thank you for watching this episode. If that blessed you, you got to make sure that you stay connected with this community and this channel so that you can get more where that came from. We're sharing great interviews, tactics, strategies, mindsets, lifestyle choices. Everything is going to help you become a totally confident creator. And don't miss an episode of the God and Gig Show. If you are staying connected to our channel, you'll be able to find us anytime we release new episodes. And you can check out some of our archives of almost 200 episodes now that we've shared over the last few years. Make sure you check out one of the suggestions right now, because it's probably perfect for you to continue to develop as a creative. And continue to stay connected with us, because we're here to help you become the creative that God created you to be. We'll see you in the next episode.